The Flames' 5-game road trip ends in Chicago on Thursday. What are the best positives we can come up with from a 3-loss excursion?
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Flames, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. What can you do when you're losing 3 games on the road? You can find a way to believe, maybe celebrate some wins that have happened over this trip out to now Columbus and Chicago this week to end a 5-game roadie for the Flames. We'll take a look ahead at the Calgary-Chicago matchup on Thursday night at United Center. And the NHL announced that the draft is headed to Buffalo, and it put out some midterm player rankings. We'll share some information that might be relevant to Flames fans from that post, that press release earlier this week. My name is Ryan G. I am a lifelong play-by-play broadcaster and based in the Pacific Northwest, fan of the Calgary Flames for about 20 years, watching 40-plus Flames games a year prior to getting into this hosting chair, as I'm a huge fan of Peter Maher, the Hall of Fame broadcaster for the Calgary Flames, who kind of spotlit my experience with Calgary in that 2004 Stanley Cup final. Celebrating the wins and what's been a pretty tough road trip for the Calgary Flames, a 1-3-0 record so far, and Morgan Frost got a goal and an assist, was able to kind of move up a little bit in the loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets in Tuesday's matchup, a 5-3 defeat that Calgary had tied up twice, 2-2 and then 3-3. Ended up being on the Connor Zary, Adam Klapka line to start, and then kind of finished out with Jonathan Huberdeau and Joel Farabee, his former Flyers teammate, on that top line toward the end of the game, and trying to find some production from players like Frost, who, as Calgary continues to evaluate the trades that they've made over the course of the last few seasons, just ways things haven't worked out. Jonathan Huberdeau has not been the player that the Flames have needed him to be after the trade for Matthew Tkachuk. And then when you brought Farabee and Frost in from the Flyers, you're hoping to get better results than the Calgary Flames have seen from those guys. And to have Frost get a goal, up to 22 points, now top 5 for the Calgary Flames this year, that's a little bit of encouragement, but it's not just been a solid season for Morgan Frost. You have a former first-round pick who hasn't really put up the numbers that you'd expect. No goals in 2 games this year against the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll preview more of that matchup coming up later on in the show. But over the course of this season, Frost found his first goal since December 13th, when he had one of the 2 in Calgary's overtime game against Los Angeles. It's only his first multi-point game since November 19th. So it's been a tough stretch for Morgan Frost for him to get a goal and an assist in the game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Those are things that might help Calgary get some production from guys that haven't otherwise been producing. I mean, the toughest part for Calgary, and I know I'm advertising that we're celebrating wins, and we're going to definitely get into there for, Mikael Backlund, for example, and some of his resurgence. But the one thing that stood out in this stretch for Calgary is Nazem Kadri has led this team in points pretty much all season long, and there hasn't been anyone tracking Naz down. I mean, it's just not been the case. Maybe Backlund, you could argue. Rasmus Andersson had a pretty hot start, still sitting tied for second with Backlund in points this season for Calgary. But overall, it's guys like Frost that Calgary needs to have getting, the amount of on-ice time that they're getting. I mean, Frost at 15:31 is probably the lowest of Calgary's top 8 skaters, but you're looking at a guy who finally gets a multi-point game and helps Calgary at least get close to a victory in Columbus. It's a very little win, but it's something that we're trying to celebrate, a little bit of wins over the course of this road trip for Calgary. And I mentioned the captain, Mikael Backlund, 1 goal, 2 assists And 2031 is highest time on ice game over the last 5 games for Backlund. He's moved up to 11 goals on the season. So Calgary's third highest total so far in 2025, 26. And against the Blackhawks, had an assist so far earlier this year. Just seems like when he plays well, Calgary has its best games, 8 goals in Calgary's 19 wins this season. And the month that he had in December, tallying 11 points, but especially finishing the month with 6 straight games having points is pretty solid. Even carry that into that first game, the loss with the Nashville Predators. But yeah, you have to credit Backlund as he continues to kind of climb up the all-time leaderboards for the Calgary Flames. You look at a recent multi-point performance that he had. He's now tied for 12th all-time in franchise history for multi-point games, has 108 over his Flames career, and he's tied former captain Mark Giordano for 6th with 366 career assists. And so it'll be interesting to see if Backlund can continue that hot play. I mentioned that Frost had kind of moved up off of the line that he was on with Zary, and it'd be interesting to see if there's a future where maybe Backlund starts getting paired with him. You had Blake Coleman on the Backlund line for a good amount of time, and that was kind of the line that Coach Ryan Huska continued to sing praises about over the course of the season so far. Had a total assist count from last season. Backlund has already moved past that in 30 fewer games this year. So you compare a season ago to the year that Backlund's put up so far in 2025-26. Pretty impressive for him. Last year totaled 17 assists, is already up to 18 on this year, and he's only 4 shy of his goal total from last season. Granted, he only played in 76 games. It wasn't a full 82-game slate for Backlund like he had the 3 prior years. You look last 5 years total, a 56-point season back in 2022-23 is the best that the captain has put up. And then the other piece of this puzzle, too, is just how well Rasmus Andersson has played, considering he is likely the first Calgary Flames player to depart as the trades start to get finalized. Teams get closer on terms and trying to find a way to make a deal. Rasmus Andersson, continues to have pretty high stock. He played well in the last game at Columbus and sparked the team with a little bit of that fight. And I know we played this clip yesterday, but it just kind of stands out that I wanted to hear from Rasmus Andersson one more time about his game against Columbus.
And sometimes those situations happens, right? And, I think obviously I wanted to give the team a spark. And for him, they got a new coach. They were kind of firing on all cylinders. And it was, a step for him to send a message to his team as well. It's the first time in a long time where I was fighting, and not really that used to it.
I don't know if that was third or fourth fight in his career, and that was a great time to do it and step up for his teammates and bring some energy, like I said, and then score a big goal.
I thought Ras was a good player for us tonight, different ways, like the energy, the emotion that he played the game with, I think was important for our group because I don't think we had a lot of it in the first period.
So 3rd time in 4 seasons for Rasmus Andersson. He was the first voice there, followed by Mikael Backlund, and then Coach Ryan Huska from NHL Flames on X talking about Ras and his game on Tuesday against Columbus. But 11 goals back in the 22-23 season, same last year, and already has 10 so far in 46 games this year. 3rd Flames defenseman in the last decade and a half to record consecutive campaigns with 10 or more goals. And again, Gio was in that conversation with Mikael Backlund. He was also somebody who you can compare to Andersson's performance, as Giordano had 6 straight seasons, double-digit goals back from 2013 into the 2018-19 season. So pretty impressive stuff for Rasmus Andersson, who I think Calgary Flames fans will remember once he does get dealt. We'll remember fondly no matter how he finishes his Flames tenure, but certainly it's cool to see some moments toward the end of his time kind of playing maybe a little bit of an homage for Flames fans, or certainly celebrating the things that were special over the years that Ras has spent in a Flaming Sea jersey. All right, we're going to preview the Calgary and Chicago matchup. The Flames have a chance to get a second win on this 5-game road trip. We look ahead to the Blackhawks and Flames on Thursday night next on this edition of Locked On Flames. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I used to manage a staff of 20 plus people, and it was so difficult to find somebody when it was time to hire someone that you need. And if you go straight to Indeed, you're going to be able to find exactly what you're looking for. You're going to find folks with real experience, not just folks who understand how to put buzzwords on a resume. And also, you get your listing right out of the top. Your listing stands out with Indeed sponsored jobs, and you can reach those quality candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. You have to check out the Locked On Flames Everydayer Club. We built this for you because you make Locked On Flames your first listen every day. You've made Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So go check out Everydayer Club. It is available there to give you ad-free audio feeds of Locked On Flames. Plus, it's compatible with your favorite podcast app, whether you're using one that you've had on your phone for 15 years like I have, or you're using Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can you get an invite, I should say, to the Everydayer Club Discord server. There's a whole bunch of folks like yourself who love Locked On, and we want to see you there. Maybe even have some fun content in the first quarter of 2026 with you, maybe some watch parties and other things. So check it out, lockedonflames.supercast.com, or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Calgary Flames are headed to Chicago, playing at United Center as they try to get their first win in the third meeting between the Flames and the Blackhawks. A recall from the AHL, Dryden Hunt is headed on a plane to Chicago, joining the team there. 11 goals, 31 points so far in 26 games for the Wranglers. And I would be encouraged to see some of the younger players spend more time with the Flames on the ice at the tail end of this road trip, continue to get acclimated to an NHL schedule, being able to compete on the road in tough spots. William Stromgren comes to mind. 3 games so far at the NHL level, hasn't scored a point yet. Even Hunter Brustevich, 1 assist in 12 games so far, but also has been out of the lineup since the first game of this road trip at Boston. Beg your pardon, the second game of the road trip. I think they were at Montreal first. Yeah, Montreal, then Boston. So, yeah, you have a guy who hasn't played in the last couple of games. Instead, they had Braden Pichal on that line, a big hit against Pittsburgh on Saturday that everybody was talking about. But again, you're still cemented on those top 2 pairings for Calgary, and instead you have Hanley playing with Pichal. Brustevich, would be nice to see him continue to get more ice time and have a chance to, figure out how he's possibly going to be part of the long-term solution for Calgary when Andersson is ultimately dealt. Did have the assist in January, so did get his first point of the year earlier this year against Montreal in that first game of the road trip. But you'll see Hunt head back to the Flames, and he'll potentially be in the lineup on Thursday. It'd be kind of tough for him to get sent all the way out to Chicago only to fly home to Calgary and not have a game logged. Excited for Matt Coronato. Been solid for him over the last few games. I like the amount of shots that he put up in one of his meetings with the Blackhawks earlier this year. Went for 11 on November 7th against Chicago. That's the highest single game total for any Calgary player in 3 years. It's actually one of the top 10 performances in franchise history. He logged 19 minutes in that game against Chicago. But all in all, the Flames have struggled this year against the Blackhawks. 4-0. Chicago got the victory in the first matchup between these teams. And then you had a 5-2 victory in the first meeting in Chicago this year. So it was a struggle for Calgary, the first game that was played on the Blackhawks home ice. Connor Bedard didn't play on Monday. He had a loss to the Oilers 4-1 for Chicago that comes in this matchup 19-20-7. And Calgary's also struggled this year against Central Division teams. At the same time, Bedard is expected to play on Thursday, was in practice on Wednesday, and 4 points in Chicago's visit to the Saddle Dome, and ended up having a hat trick in the meeting between the two on November 18th in Chicago. So pretty impressive performance so far for Bedard, depending on how healthy he is. Coming off of what's kind of been a similar situation to Calgary, where Devin Cooley was not available fighting off the flu. Blackhawks are now having kind of the illness trickle through their entire locker room as well. And it's such a shame, too, because Calgary was so good against the Blackhawks last year, winning all three matchups, including the 2 games at the Saddle Dome. But, I mean, Calgary is in danger of coming back to Alberta 19-24-4. And having 4 of those 5 road trip games net losses. The Blackhawks, like I mentioned, off the loss to the Oilers, their head coach saying, my whole take on the game was the first 15 minutes, they dominated us. The first 5 minutes of the second, they took it to us. I thought the last 5 of the first and the rest of the game were not bad. And then we were really good in the third. Jeff Blashill, the Blackhawks coach, talking about that. Calgary is going to face this Blackhawks team that's 10-10-4 at home, and right now 8th in the league in terms of total penalties. You have Tyler Bertuzzi leading with 24 goals so far for the Chicago Blackhawks, and in the last 10 games, Nick Lardis 3 goals, 1 assist. As right now the Blackhawks have a 6-3-1 mark over that 10-game stretch compared to Calgary's 4-6-0, and it feels like it's kind of ticking back into the or down into the right as opposed to going up into the right. Flames averaging just 2.2 goals right now. The Blackhawks are closer to 3, but just 7-16-2 on the road for Calgary. Just likely to be a hard-fought battle as the Blackhawks have those first 2 games in hand on Calgary. I'm excited to see if Connor Zary can continue to have a little bit more of a stellar performance right now. 3 assists with those 4 goals over the past 10 games. But yeah, illness, including Spencer Knight, the goalie who made 33 saves for the Blackhawks in their matchup with the Oilers. 48 points for Bedard, who leads the team, even though he's missed 13 games total so far this season. It's also a matchup of penalty kills. Always love when you're looking at the penalty kill as one of the highlights for both teams, but it's not just Calgary's, which has been pretty stellar all year. It's also been the Blackhawks, as host of Locked On Blackhawks, Jack Bushman, mentioned.
The penalty kill remains perfect. All factor into a huge win in the second game in as many nights over the weekend to move the Blackhawks to 5-1-0 so far here in 2026. Excellent start to the new year. Love to see Drew Commesso go and have the showing that he did after I talked about him on my Blackhawks prospect rankings here recently. My takes didn't look all that good considering how he played on Friday, but I've said Drew Commesso, I feel like he still has a chance to be that number 2 goalie, the backup to Spencer Knight of the future here in this rebuild. He just hasn't really been given the opportunity considering the contract situation, the multi-year deal that they gave Arvid Soderblom in the summer.
That's from Locked On Blackhawks. You can check them out, of course, wherever your podcasts are available. One other thing, other than the fact that these are 2 strong penalty kill units that you should be excited about if you're a Flames fan, the high danger scoring chances. Calgary is 21st in the league, which isn't stellar, but the Blackhawks only 40 2% of the time with high danger 5-on-5 opportunities. That is dead last in the NHL. So Calgary might produce a little bit more offense depending on how things go. But even if Calgary does get on the power play, went 3 for 3 against the Blue Jackets on Tuesday, the Chicago team is at 88% killing penalties at home so far this year. The NHL Draft is coming to Buffalo. Midterm player rankings are out as well from the National Hockey League. Who is stellar when it comes to the 2026 draft class? We'll share more on that as this episode of Locked On Flames rolls on. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. So every game day, you'll go into the app, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts, and you can apply those to the bets that you like the most, which is awesome. It gives you more juice on the bets that you like instead of forcing you to go in another direction. And every play feels bigger because of that. The boosts make your bets feel that way as well. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply, and then you can lean into your game day instincts. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Thank you for making Locked On Flames your first listen every day. We're going to be looking at the official opponent jersey power rankings on Monday's edition of the show, and on Friday, taking a look back at what happened at United Center on Thursday as Calgary is set to take on the Blackhawks. That's a 6:30 Mountain Time start from Chicago on Thursday night. The NFL Draft, I keep saying the NFL Draft, the NHL Draft is going to Buffalo, and that's a pretty cool spot. I had my first chance to visit Buffalo in 2023, went to Niagara Falls, hit a couple of breweries in the city, and I went to Highmark Stadium, which was a big highlight for me because as a kid and a diehard Denver Broncos fan, the teams that made the 4 straight Super Bowls for the Buffalo Bills always kind of had a soft spot in my heart. And so as they get set to open up their new stadium, much like Calgary will do in the NHL world in a couple of seasons, Buffalo opening up theirs next year, it was great to see Highmark Stadium before they tore it down. Of course, the downside to all of this is Denver is playing Buffalo this weekend in the NFL divisional round. And so my Broncos will have to deny the Bills a trip to the Super Bowl yet again, which breaks my heart, but not too much. So Buffalo will be there. It's the first time they've been to Buffalo since the 2016 NHL Draft. That was when Toronto picked up Austin Matthews, and it's going to be on June 26th. It is going to be televised on ESPN in the States, and so pretty exciting that you have another big road trip for the NHL Draft. I think I like how these draft formats are continuing to visit cities as a chance for fans to find an excuse to go places. I always like seeing visiting fans at the Seattle Kraken games, getting an experience at the Climate Pledge Arena, which, we have season tickets to the Kraken, and so it's pretty cool to see folks come in and root for the visiting team. I'll be there in April when Calgary visits for the only time this year, and get to meet a lot of Flames fans, which is always exciting. So if you are going to go to Seattle, please let me know in the YouTube comments. I'd love to see you there. This is a quote from Commissioner Gary Bettman saying, "Since it was the first time we were decentralizing, going back to the first time they went to Buffalo, I wanted to try some things that would be new and different than you see perhaps in other drafts. I think the first round may have been a bit overproduced, and so we learned some things, worked, and some things that didn't work. And so I think we're going to look to streamline, but at the same time, we'll try some new things to be innovative and creative. But we want to be conscious of how long it is taking. That's the decentralized format. where all the teams will operate out of their home markets back to the 2025 NHL draft. Excuse me. I was thinking that was back to that first time that it was in Buffalo. So you look at the mid-season NHL draft rankings, and no surprise that Gavin McKenna is still on the top of the list. This is according to Dan Marr, who is part of the NHL Central Scouting, and confirmed that the undisputed number one guy is going to be McKenna. 129 point season back in the WHL, which still just blows my mind. But you can't really argue that he is at the top of the board. I've seen a lot of folks start to kind of steer the ship toward Ivar Stenberg, which is not a bad place to go. Of course, Keaton Verhoff, also one of those top 3 prospects in the NHL 2016 draft class. But the good news for Flames fans is if for some reason Calgary doesn't find itself in the top 3, whether that's because of how they finished the season or some bad lottery bounces, Dan Marr does say that the remainder of the first round contains a diverse mix of talented players, with the next 8 to 10 considered top-end prospects who will be hard to displace in the second half, while the remainder of the first round is considered interchangeable going forward. So there's a lot of good talent that Calgary can be exposed to. McKenna has, a pretty solid juniors championship, World Juniors stretch that makes him one of the, best Canadians all time. But at the same time, Verhoff right now is ranked number 2 behind McKenna, I believe, in terms of North American skaters, 6'3", and has some really awesome talent that is being compared to some of the best blue liners in all of the NHL. And then if you want to look at the number 2 internationally ranked player, because you have Stenberg as number 1, that goes to Albert Smits right now, 6'3", 205 pounds, and quote, an offensive defenseman. So right now with Calgary being in that bottom 5 in the NHL standings in terms of points, let's say everything goes according to plan with the lottery, you'd have Calgary in a position to pick up one of those possibly top 4 players. And it's exciting to hear that if Calgary were to go with a defenseman, it might be somebody who can continue to produce some offense, because that feels where Calgary is going to need the help the most, considering it's going to be built around Dustin Wolf by and large. Right now, Stenberg, by the way, averaging nearly a point per game, tied for 4th in Frölunda with 24 points, 6 goals in 25 games. Pretty impressive stuff there. And I see a lot of you say that Stenberg kind of stands out. It's kind of the difference between the high ceiling of McKenna versus the high floor that Stenberg comes in with. That's the description that I've heard the most. But let me know who you are leaning toward as you look at that NHL class 2026 that will be picked in Buffalo coming up on June 26th of this next year. It's Calgary and Chicago coming up from United Center on Friday's edition of Locked On Flames, to take a peek at the week that was and summarize the back end of this road trip, see what we learned about the Flames over the 5 games away from Calgary. We appreciate you tuning in. Please make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Flames so you can get all of the latest episodes. Continue to tell friends about the show, and I appreciate everyone who's working us towards 700 subscribers on YouTube. We continue to work forward toward that goal, and I can't say thank you enough. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Flames ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. You can find that at lockedonflames.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And for those of you on audio, stay tuned. Make your second listen NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. I'm Ryan G. Thanks for having fun with us. We'll see you again soon for more Locked On Flames.